guys, Sword here, back again with another edition of Throwback Thursdays, and what I have for you today is the Kenner Gargoyles Hammer Strike Macbeth. That's right, and since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, let us move right along to his accessories, the first of which is this little backpack here with whatever the heck that is. It's got a sticker on it. And some loop-de-loops. Get into that in a minute. But if you're familiar with the Xanatos I took a look at earlier this year, actually. I can't even say that was a month ago. That was like 2 or 3 months ago. But you can easily slide this backpack onto his back like that. Looks pretty good. And he will just fall down. Usually don't have problems standing this guy up, but for whatever reason. And then he comes with this. And it has this big old honking lever on it, which when you turn it, it kind of pumps. And essentially, this is A, how your dick works, and B, I believe this is a jackhammer, hence hammer strike, which the weapon's cool, I like it, but Macbeth in the show is a warrior who fights with honor, and he would never use a weapon like this against the gargoyles. He always fought them after they awoke from their stone sleep, and typically fought him with like a lightning gun or a sword. So why they went with something that goes against everything he stands for, I have no idea. Probably just kind of oblivious to all the subject matter of the show, because they are just a company that makes action figures after all. But for this gun, you get two, count them, two missiles, and the first one kind of looks like a spiked club, and the second one looks a lot like his sword. Well, not a lot like, but it does look like a sword. It even has like handle grooves in it. And yes, you can take the figure and put these in his hand like that. He can hold them, sort of. I wish he had a different hand on this side to hold the weapons, but it's whatever. It looks cool. You can at least have him with a sword, but it just doesn't fit in there very snug. I guess if you had the Ra's al Ghul sword from the Batman animated series line, you could use that with him. I have that somewhere. But you can load these up, of course, into this weapon here. And you can either hit the trigger yourself, or using the other one, it's loaded. Okay, you can use the pump action. Or not. Okay, that's not really working. It's supposed to be able to... Okay, I guess that doesn't actually shoot the missile. I thought it did. Well, I'm stupid. It just kind of has the pump action going on. So that's not used to fire the missile. So in that case... I lost that one. Oh well. Found it though. Well, that being said, those little loop-de-loops on his backpack, you can use them to store the weapons in, like this one. You can put it like that, and he can carry his sword on his back, which is cool. So, you know, I like efficient weapon storage. But looking at this figure, since you're all done looking at the accessories, why the hell does he look like this? Okay, I will give them a pass for the Elisa figure, because it was pointed out to me that I'm a dipshit, and she's wearing flight gear, like a Star Wars X-Wing pilot. It's not some weird 90s S&M steel lingerie thing like I thought it was. Because your boy's a dumbass and has his mind in the gutter. That's the first thing I thought of. But Macbeth had a relatively cool looking character design in the show with the trench coat and everything, and they could have just given him like the cloth hunter mask and his sword and a lightning gun that shot a missile. Would have been fine. But instead we get him in this weird Rob Liefeld looking armor with this hook on his arm. Is this supposed to be like some kind of grapple? I don't know what this is, but not ideal. So arguably this guy is the worst figure of the line because he actually has a cool character design in the show. Well, an interesting one for action figures at this time. And they didn't even bother going that route. And he has a ponytail, or whatever this is. He's got like a ponytail going on, and he never had that either. He just had kind of like he had long hair, but he didn't have that long hair. So this figure's inaccurate as all get out, and just like the Elisa Mazza figure. But he really doesn't have an excuse for it this time. The Elisa character design was fairly basic, so they're just trying to make it interesting to sell a toy. This guy had a cool design, and they just changed it to change it, it seems. But, you know, what are you going to do? Kenner was just there to make the toys. They weren't there to be accurate. The only figure they ever really got right was Xanatos as far as the human characters. They re-released him in that red version, which is what I took a look at earlier this year. But as far as articulation on this guy goes, his head will rotate, his arms will go up and down, and his legs will move forward and back. I mean, don't get me wrong, he looks cool, but really, this could have been a Quarryman figure, but we don't talk about the Goliath Chronicles. Because they're not as good as the other two seasons, even though they're probably arguably better than some shows today. They're just not held in the highest regard by any means. That's Hammerstrike Macbeth in a nutshell. He's cool. I like some of the changes, but I think they should have. Well, they took this weird hook thing off and given him a second grip hand so he could hold the sword and this crazy jackhammer weapon. Let me just load the missile into that so it doesn't get lost on me. There we go. But, yeah. Not the best figure in the line. But, it's fun. I do have fun with this weapon here. Just show it off again. That is pretty cool. But, yeah, just not the best figure in the line. That said, it's one of the final figures I'll be taking a look at from this line for a while. I do have a couple other Goliath variants, which we'll probably take a look at. I got the battle armor, which is kind of a Master of the Universe kind of rip-off idea, which is kind of hilarious. And then they got a couple of deluxe Goliath figures, the Power Wing and the Mighty Roar. If I could find batteries for that Mighty Roar figure, I'll definitely do a video on that. But I think the next one we'll look at is the Power Wing Goliath, because I haven't looked at a deluxe figure yet. So that'll be cool. But I'll look at Brooklyn at a later date. I know I kind of skipped over him. He's the only other character, per se, that I haven't looked at yet. But I'd like to get a better one. A slightly better one. Mine's okay, but he doesn't have the little sword thing. So maybe at some point I will find that, and we'll take a look at him. But with that being said, enough jibber-jabbering. Let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. But wait, wouldn't you think it'd be helpful if you showed us how to properly attach the jackhammer weapon to this figure? Yeah, probably would, but I'm too busy getting ahead of myself. Jokes aside, though, the jackhammer weapon has this little peg here, this little guard that goes in front of the hand, and this little clip that clips onto his glove here right before this little kind of ring slash cuff piece. So sliding this down. This can be easier said than done, so bear with me here. Just kind of finesse it in there, like so. Careful you don't want to break that clip. It feels pretty sturdy, but you never know. And then since I took the missile out off screen here, we'll just load that up again. And there you go. There is Hammer Strike Macbeth with his big old honkin' jackhammer. No, you're not going to be able to stand this guy with this thing. Would have been nice if this maybe came with a tripod stick on the bottom, so you can actually have him standing up. But at any rate, it does help hold him up when it's on the ground. But I'm going to take this off while we do the size comparisons, because it is a pretty large weapon and will take up a lot of real estate. So with that being said, now that I have shown you literally everything this figure has to offer, let us now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up here is the Hammer Strike Macbeth next to the only other human figures we got in the Kenner Gargoyles line, Elisa Mazza and David Xanatos, who is the only one who got a figure that was more show accurate, unfortunately. That, and we never got characters like the Pack or the Hunters or Dr. Anton Zivarius or anyone like that. So kind of unfortunate, but hey, fingers crossed for this new NECA line, right? Next up, here he is alongside a couple of Gargoyle characters I've already taken a look at from this line, Demona and the infamous Stone Armor Goliath, the comparison I use for almost all of my Kenner Gargoyles videos. And to give not only this guy, but the Elisa Mazza figure credit, they do scale quite well with the Gargoyle characters. They are significantly shorter than the Gargoyle characters, as it should be. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus, the 11th Spawn, who as usual, towers over everyone. So with that being said, time to wrap things up, some final thoughts. Overall, and while I don't believe that this figure is the absolute worst that the Kenner Gargoyles line has to offer, I still say that goes to Elisa Mazza just for being a little bit too on the basic side. This guy definitely doesn't have that going on. But with that said, he also doesn't have an excuse for the drastic character design change, because while Elisa kind of needed that to sell a girl action figure to boys at the time, which that's still a struggle that toy companies have today, Macbeth had a relatively cool looking character design with the trench coat, his signature sword, and that lightning gun. He even had a little hover jet ski looking thing, which was pretty cool and would have been nice to see in this line, but unfortunately they never got around to doing that. So while I don't think he's as, I guess, basic as the Elisa figure, he's also not as good as, say, the Xanatos figure, which I think is the best of the human figures. I don't have the Xanatos that comes with the car, and I don't have the Xanatos from the Hardwired series, where they kind of did another armored Xanatos, but he didn't have the gargoyle wings and whatnot. That said, I think the Xanatos figures are just the better human figures in this line. I think they did a much better job with those. And we even got a show-accurate Xanatos, granted it came with the vehicle, but again, they could have done that with Elisa and Macbeth here, and they just didn't for whatever reason. And I find it funny that they did it with Xanatos, because we didn't really see him driving a car that often, so kind of funny there. That, and in trying to get this guy in a cool pose for this segment of the review and or the URL for this video, I always use these handy dandy McFarlane stands because they are a godsend, and they are very, very versatile when it comes to getting figures to stand up that otherwise wouldn't when I have them posed in a semi-dynamic fashion. And for whatever reason, Kenner decided, hey, let's have the peg holes on Macbeth's feet go in at this stupid, weird diagonal angle so he literally won't work with any figure stand. That frickin' sucks, because I hate having this big jackhammer thing on the ground when it could be in the air ready to fire, and it's just on the ground, because that's all you can do with it. That sucks, dude. So, you know, that's kind of a personal problem with me personally, because I really wanted to have his gun in the air, but can't do it because the figure stand doesn't work because the peg holes are tremeled in at a weird angle that doesn't allow him to stand flat on the floor. So, yeah. If you want to complete the Gargoyles line, I would recommend you pick this guy up. I don't think he's that expensive. I got mine relatively cheap. Less than 20 bucks cartage, shipped to the door on eBay. Granted, was I in high school at the time? I might have been. High school or college. He was not expensive at all. He might have cost me 16 bucks, if that. So, you know, track him down if you want him. But I would say if you're like me and are looking for show accuracy, then maybe pass on by and get one of the Gargoyle characters. Because all of those, for the most part, are relatively show accurate. And the Xanatos, he's good too. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Throwback Thursdays. They'll get more positive, I promise. But at any rate, if you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.